Nice to meet you, man.
Yeah, likewise. Likewise, man. I appreciate you setting this up. It's always fun to chat with people who are in the industry. And, like I said, I know we chatted just very briefly beforehand, but it's like I don't really get a chance to talk to people who, really in the industry that often, I
Yeah,
mean, at least where I live, in Grand Rapids, there's aren't a whole lot of people who are like real deep into it.
yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, that's kind of interesting. Well, maybe let's start there. Um, Let me grab something. Like I never know if you're supposed to eat before one of these things. And I was like, oh man, am I going to be hungry? 10 o'clock
Dude,
here. It's 1 o'clock where you are. You probably just
yeah,
had lunch, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I did, yeah.
I was like, am I? Yeah, probably like
Dude,
your
if you gotta
blood's
take a
rushing down your
if
stomach.
if you gotta take a snack break, yeah, feel
No, no, no.
free.
I ate already.
Oh,
That's
you
the
did?
thing. I just
Okay.
don't know if that was a mistake or not. So I was like, okay, is my brain gonna start like processing slower because all the blood's in my stomach? Yeah, but I will plug
Dude,
myself
you
with one of
should
these bad boys.
100%. And
With a little
I know it's
caffeine
gonna
in there.
it's gonna sound like I was making this up, but dude, I was gonna go to the store and grab one of those specifically, the energy. Um, I just didn't make it in time. I was worried that I was worried I was gonna be late for this if I tried to do that.
No worries. I love this
So
drink
I
because
was
just
gonna
because
plug
it's
it
like the
too.
right amount of caffeine, right? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a big fan of the rooted too. Just like strictly from like a flavor profile standpoint. So it just kind of
Cool.
hits
Yeah.
checks all the boxes for me because I like well, I really like things that are tropical. Like I like pineapple and the ginger is
Got it.
nice in there.
Yeah.
Plus it has some cool functional ingredients.
Interesting. Yeah. No, that's kind of our either number one or number two drink. That always kind of trades places with the unwound drink. So that's the lavender blueberry
Yeah.
common
Yep.
one. That one's super popular too. I think at the end of the day, when people are looking at non-alc options, it seems like they usually default to a calming drink.
Yeah.
And also that I think that one tastes good too. And what's been interesting is because we kind of go beyond that. And so we say, okay, we've got the calming drink. We'll probably come out with more flavors of calming beverages, but then we do have stuff like this that'll give you energy and focus. And to your point, the stuff that'll give you, they'll support your gut health. So I've had comments before where people were like, I was kind of skeptical at first. I don't think when I drink a non-alcoholic beverage or a mocktail that I would like be looking for gut health. But I guess and then they tried it. They're like, wow, this is pretty good. And it works. It's functional.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then their interest is like, oh, okay. I didn't even know that was a thing, but I guess it is. So here we are. We're just like, in general, we're just blazing the trails. Like, what the heck does this non-alcoholic thing mean?
Yeah,
And
definitely.
like, right? Yeah. So, but hey, before we should talk about that. Let's table that real quick, just because you've seen so much in your experience and like how things have evolved. I'm definitely curious. I think, and whoever our audience ends up being is probably going to be curious about, what the different trends you've seen along the way. But Chad, let's, dude, give me the intro, man.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
Cool. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. My name is Chad Clark, and I own more or less NA Bottles and Beer in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Um, we are Michigan's. Well, actually, I was going to say we're the only. That's not true anymore. There's a dedicated an NA retail shop that opened in Detroit a few months back.
Okay.
We're Michigan's first, and yeah, we're out there just having fun, man. Bringing cool NA beverages to just our local community.
Yeah. When did you get started?
I got started in the non-alcoholic beverage space in 2019.
Okay.
It was a different concept back then. I'll try to keep this short. But my brother and I knew we wanted to do something together. And I always thought it was probably going to be in food because that is like my primary background is in
Mhm.
food. Um, well, we were kind of kicking around some ideas and, he had been sober from alcohol for probably like 5 years at that point. And
Got it.
he asked me, he was like, dude, what about like non-alcoholic beverages? He was at the time, he was just really tired of going out to eat with his family, only being able to get, maybe like O'Doul's or St. Pauli Girl coffee,
Yeah.
pop, or soda.
Depending on where you live.
Yeah, depending on where you live. Yeah. And so he was like, dude, let's do something in the NA beverage space. So we kind of looked into it a little bit more, and I was like, that's really intriguing. It does seem like it's going to be a thing,
Yeah.
And so we started off wholesaling like coffee, teas, and cocktails like in kegs to bars and restaurants. And, that was really difficult and maybe not the best idea. So then in 2020, we had an opportunity to get a brick and mortar spot inside of a shared market space in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And so we did that. And that kind of ended up turning into like a little bit more of a cafe. We had like coffee, teas, and smoothies. But we did have an extensive list of zero proof cocktails, and we had quite a few retail offerings. But at that point, there really weren't a whole lot of things around. We had Curious and Tennyson and like Ritual was kind of just getting started. And I'll be honest with you, I think people in that market were confused by what we were trying to do. They didn't really understand like the way we had our menu laid out. My brother's a photographer too, so he had these like gorgeous like pictures of like the cocktails that we made, the zero proof cocktails, and they always, I think a lot of people thought it was alcohol, and then when they came up, they were like disappointed, and we tried to I don't know. It was really weird. They, at that time, they just didn't like see the value in it, I think, which is super interesting. So that was like a fight, like from day one. But anyway, it was at that spot, at that location that I saw the first, I guess it would have been like the North America's first, United States' first non-alcoholic bottle shop would be Spirited Away, right? And I saw them. I was like, that's super interesting. Like, they have some things that we're carrying. I'm going to keep an eye on them. Saw another one pop up, probably on the West Coast. I can't remember now, but, and then I was like, well, maybe we could make this work in Michigan. It seemed like a little bit of a stretch, but I don't know. I ended up meeting my would-be business partner, through our old location, and kind of pitched the idea to him, and boom. That's kind of how we ended up like with the bottle shop. I know that's kind of a convoluted story, but that's just kind of how I got here.
That's amazing. And so you had the brick and mortar, and so the idea came up in 2019, and the brick and mortar in 2020.
Yeah,
yeah. The idea yeah.
Well, I would say like the idea just for like for non-alcoholic beverages generally kind of came, and we started that company in 2018. 2019. We probably started talking about it, 2018 or something like that. But it was my brother who had the idea. It wasn't me.
I think that's like, you guys were trailblazers, man. Like, that was early.
It was really early. Yeah. It was pretty early. Particularly for for kind of where we live, I'll say, right? Because I think most people are aware that most of the the culinary trends and movements start on either of the coasts and kind of like trickle into the Midwest, right?
Right. Yeah, totally. Because even like now, like we're in Southern California, and I'm out in the field all the time, and like a lot of people get it, but people still don't get it, man. It's wild.
It is crazy. Yeah, we're still like very much at like the infancy of this movement. I feel like it's still like just it's still like very early days. It's kind of wild west right now too, which is kind of
it is. But you're like the first settler. Like this that's what blows my mind. Yeah.
I guess one of them. There were some that came before us.
There's a couple there, but you're like one of the first guys. Like, maybe not technically the first one on the moon, but you guys are early.
Yeah, we were there after a few people, and so it's been pretty fun to see it grow and change over the years, and like I said, I don't know. It's just. It's kind of like the wild west in the sense like there are no rules, or at least there kind of are now. There's like a little bit of playbook now, but early on everybody was kind of just like okay, like what works, like to try to figure out like
Yeah.
how we really talk about these beverages and how we sell them to the consumer
Yeah.
and market that. I don't know. It's
Let's-
super interesting.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. So 2020, obviously COVID hit. How did that go for you guys? Yeah.
Yeah, that was really rough. That was really rough for us because we opened our spot like right when Michigan had, I think it was its like first lockdown. And so there really was not a lot of foot traffic in that market at all. And you know, it was a rough go. Yeah, I mean, but it was rough for
You survived.
any brick and mortar small business. Yeah,
Yeah, you survived.
yeah, we survived it. You know, I should note we have since closed that business down, but we made it through. But I mean, it was it was a difficult time. You know, particularly for like us as a company that was offering some really, really like niche and like emergent products. You know, we just kind of had to figure out like, okay, like how are we going to survive this? How do we get people coming back? But we were also trying to figure out like, how do we talk about these products to people who have no idea what they are, right? Like how do we talk about, I'm going to use Ritual, for example, just because that's just kind of what comes to mind. It's what we had a lot of there. And it's like, how do we talk about these like this, like NA whiskey? It's like that there's no alcohol, but it's kind of mimicking the taste of it. But it's not really meant to be consumed neat or on the rocks. You make it into a cocktail. You know, it's like people were just so curious. They just didn't know what to do with it at the time, you know. So you know, we'd be like, oh yeah, well these are all, you know, an approximation, and they're, you know, they're meant for cocktail making, blah blah blah. And, you know, but we luckily at that space, you know, we had a bar, so we could make cocktails with that stuff. And like, yeah, well this is what it's like in a drink, you know. And some.
Then how are people responding to that then, especially in Michigan? Like, I'm sure you had this crew of people who were like you and your brother, who were sober curious, or just sober. But then you kind of have just like a plethora of different folks who are just like, well, what's the point of that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a good question. We had a small group of people who, you know, really seemed to kind of cling on to and understand what we were trying to do. You know, they're like, oh, this is super cool. But, you know, we received, you know, quite a bit of like pushback, and people, honestly, like people would like just general mockery. I mean, people like coming up and just like kind of mocking what we were doing, you know. And it's like, which was fine, you know, because to a certain extent, you know, I feel like we both kind of liked a little bit of confrontation.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
no.
But yeah, I mean, I like, you know, I'll never forget the time that there was a woman who came up, and she looked at, so we had some bottles sitting up by the register, you know, and she had ordered like a coffee or something, and you could tell she was just in a bad mood anyway. But she like grabbed this bottle, and she was like, well, you won't be able to use this probably on Instagram, or wherever you decide to post this. But she was like, what the fuck is this? And I was like, wow, excuse me. That's just like an insane way to like ask a question anyway. And I'll never forget. I was like, you know, it just rubbed me the wrong way. And I was like, you know, if you have to ask that, like this product is not for you. Like just keep walking.
You sure got me.
Dude, it was crazy. It was crazy. Yes. I mean, you know, that was, not everybody was like blatantly rude like that, but yeah, we did receive like,
she was probably
quite a bit of like people mocking. Yeah, she might have been hungover. Yeah. Yeah, but you know, it really, I don't know, man. Like some of that stuff just like really irritated some people in a sense, and that was kind of when we were like, oh, you know, I think we're on to something. You know, if it's making people like this emotional, like we're probably on to something.
Oh my gosh, let's talk about that real quick. It's what I found is, and we all do this, like, you know, we used to do a lot of farmers markets. We might do them again too. But like you get, you know, like everybody at a farmers market, you know, you don't kind of pick who goes there, and people there for different reasons.
Definitely.
Or, you know, just random events. And you know, we're like, hey, do you guys have you had a non-alcoholic beer before? Have you had a non-alcoholic mocktail or functional mocktail before? And actually, I remember, I'll tell this one story. We're at a golfing event, so we got asked to go to this scramble, And I was like, perfect, golf. That's a place people love to drink, but we all
Yeah.
know it's a bad idea because the more we drink, the worse we golf. For most people, except unless you're John Daly. Um, so we thought we would do really well, but it was weird. It was like vibes from the get-go. This is like a Wednesday. So Wednesday, it's basically a bunch of grown-ass men getting shit-faced. And it's like, because we're right next to a tent at a hole that was serving up like whiskey, alcoholic whiskey, craft beers, and then we had the non-alcoholic drinks like kind of tucked in the back. And we're like, wow, we feel kind of out of place.
You're like tucked in the corner.
Exactly. I was like, oh, it was weird too. We were getting vibed on by these people too. They're like the non-alcoholic beverage company, and like, what is this? Yeah. And so it definitely didn't feel like we're in the right place. Now there are a couple people that came and they're like, this is really cool. Your non-alcoholic beer tastes really good. These mocktails are really interesting, blah, blah, blah. And then there are just some people that were literally insulted by us being there.
Yeah.
And they would say different things. They're like, no, thank you, I'm an alcoholic. And I'm like, oh, okay. And it gave us like the first taste of holy smokes. And again, I thought we were going to crush this event, but it was the weirdest thing. Like what I noticed was like, and they were upsetting people, right? Because like they'd be sitting there, they'd run up to the shot guy, the guy that's giving out the whiskeys, and they'd be like, let me get a shot, let me get a shot, let me get a shot. And they're like clearly trying to get drunk, right? And I was like, or they'd go for the beers too. I go, oh, do you want to try a non-alcoholic beer? And then it started becoming very clear to me why these guys were getting upset. Because at the end of the day, I was saying, hey, our non-alcoholic beer tastes just as good as that beer. It just has no alcohol in it. So you ask yourself, why am I drinking this? And it was clearly I was drinking it to get drunk.
Yeah, like get fucked
and
up
so
on Wednesday.
Once you kind of come to terms with that, on the golf course, it's a Wednesday. These guys were stumbling out of there, by the way, getting in their cars too. Like, it was it was a nice golf course too. Like nice cars. Just like I see these guys just stumbling out of there. I was like, wow, this isn't interesting. I don't think I'm doing this event again. But anyways, it was like, but it was just so like I could see it now, and I saw it. That was like early on, one of our first events. But like ever since then, I realized that we were kind of looking people straight in the eye, either indirectly, and saying, hey, why is it that you are drinking this? If you like it just for the taste, then you will like our drink too. And then it kind of makes them like put a mirror to themselves and say, oh, wow, I drink alcohol because I want to get drunk. And then at that point, you're kind of asking yourself, well, why do I want to get drunk? And then you're like, okay, am I trying to escape something that I want? Right? Like it's like a Band-Aid. So it pisses people off.
It does. Yeah, they definitely get like, people get very defensive about it, like defensive of their own drinking, which is, it's really interesting. I don't know. The psychology behind it is super intriguing to me.
Yeah, it is.
Because you weren't out there like, I'm sure you weren't out there like saying, preaching sobriety or anything. You were just offering a non-alcoholic option, and people were like, some people were offended by that.
It was so odd. It was the oddest thing. And that sometimes we'll do grocery store demos too. And sometimes we get placed in like the beer and wine sections. And this happens a lot. Like we're at a couple liquor stores, and I'm still trying to figure out like if it makes sense for our products to be in liquor stores. So a lot of these like mom and pop liquor stores, they have non-alcoholic sections, but like we don't do that well there. Just because if you go into a liquor store, think about it, like you're there to get liquor or alcohol. Yeah,
definitely. And also too, I mean, chances are the staff there, I don't know, who knows? Maybe they don't know enough about your product. Maybe they don't know enough about the non-alcoholic industry, that category generally, to be able to like educate the people who are coming in,
Yeah.
So that could be
we would do like we'll offer them samples, and it's just like it just doesn't hit because you don't go to you don't go to like a burger place and start looking for Mexican food.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like there was like a certain expectation, like when they're walking in.
Like, why do I want non-alc drinks? Exactly. Yeah, like why I came here for alcohol. But then it's like kind of a little sad too, because like there'd be times like I go on like drop off stuff to a liquor store, and I'm just like, man, this place is just kind of sad. And then
Yeah,
I would
like
see this
sad
guy
vibes.
that's yeah, well, you would see the guy, he's clearly an alcoholic, and he's sitting here like kind of twitching and like walking around a little cracked out, and you know,
Yeah,
he's looking for the cheapest bottle of vodka.
it is sad.
You know, and I'm just like, I'm like, dude, I couldn't work here. I don't even want to be in here, you know, like, but
Yeah,
hey, if someone like that guy, like if that guy is gonna go and get his fix, like he's probably not interested in non-alc options. Maybe we have some positive influence indirectly. It's like, oh, look at all these things. People are like using these things instead of alcohol. But at the end of the day, like the alcohol industry, man, it's an interesting concept. And if you think about how big it is and how powerful it is, and you really like one of my not so recent epiphanies, but epiphanies has been they if you I feel kind of conflicted saying this, but I'll say it anyways. Let's just say that alcohol was a drug. Do you believe that alcohol is a drug, Chad?
yeah.
So you're in the business of selling drugs. And so most of the people who buy your drug, they're probably addicted to it.
Yeah,
To
it's
me.
interesting. Yeah, I mean, yeah, to some extent, right?
So right? Because like I don't think these alcohol companies make money off of the casual drinker that's buying a bottle of champagne once a year for their birthday or a case of beer for the 4th of July. I think they mostly make their money off of the guy I saw in the liquor store that was twitching, trying to get a handle of the cheapest vodka you can get 3 times a week.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably very true. It is a very strange industry, and it's strange how like accepted that it just is too. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. Like, I don't know. Like, but at the end of the day, like, if we lost all the folks that were addicted to our products, would we be that big? The one interesting trend I've seen, again, I don't know if this is going to move the needle on anything, but do you know what like GLP-1 drugs are?
Yeah,
They're like the weight loss
like
drugs. Like,
Ozempic and things like. Yep.
exactly. So evidently, those things are being used. They could also treat addiction and alcohol addiction. So if you were, let's say you were an alcoholic, Chad, and you're like, hey, I just can't quit this, but I know I need to stop. There's now like you could use those GLP-1s. Oh, by the way, you'll lose 10 pounds. But it'll also help curb your
It's like
alcohol
win-win. Yeah.
So
That's
I don't know. There's
actually,
some studies out there.
that's
Yeah.
super interesting. That's the first I've heard of that.
Yeah.
You know, I know like, you know, I know people were like microdosing Ozempic for it, but I don't know if it was for that or not. People were just microdosing anything, I guess. But
Yeah.
microdosing is just kind of a hot term. But
Yeah. Well, I used
that's-
to smoke cigarettes, right? And
Yeah.
you know, it was like cigarettes and booze. It was perfect combination.
oh, dude, yeah.
And
I mean, it was like the best. I used to smoke cigarettes too. Yeah.
so I don't know how you quit smoking, but when I finally quit, I was using like Chantix or something like that, like this prescription medicine.
Yeah. Yep.
And what it did was like block the receptors in your brain that like release dopamine or something like that when you actually like got the rush or the hit of nicotine. And so the more you smoked, it just like did nothing for you. So you're just like, well, I'm just smoking for nothing. It's not making me feel satisfied in any way.
Yeah.
And so eventually you just stop. You kind of like you could lean off of smoking. So I don't know. To me, it's like something similar to that.
Interesting. Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, you know, for me, I you know, I'm gonna say it.
Yeah, just say it.
But mushrooms have been like really life changing for me.
Really?
And
Tell me about some mushroom stories, Chad. Let's go. I got one for you after you got yours. Let's
you
hear
know,
it.
like I attribute taking those I attribute like me quitting nicotine to mushrooms to some extent. You know, it kind of just like rewired the way I thought about it. when I quit smoking cigarettes, I used a vape like really early on. This is like before, anybody really knew like how bad they were. And yeah, so I used that, but then I became like way more addicted to nicotine because I was like sitting inside all day. I'd be at work, what, it didn't even matter where I was. That thing would like constantly be in my mouth.
Yeah.
I would wake up in the morning. First thing I'd do is like not even reach for water, just like reach for, my e-cig, just rip that thing. I was like, dude, it's bad. But man, mushrooms, like, I did like took a large amount one time, in like a more of like a therapeutic setting, right? So
Yeah.
kind of dimly lit room, mask on, headphones in, and it was like after that, I just didn't really crave it at all. It was weird. I kind of went in with the intention of like wanting to do that. I had been thinking about like quitting, and yeah, I don't know. There's really something to be said there. I think about like psilocybin and addiction, and even like things like for PTSD and stuff like that. I think they can be super helpful. And I know, like, obviously psilocybin is still illegal in most places. It's decriminalized in a couple places in Michigan, actually. But it's still like almost kind of taboo to talk about. But man, it's been super helpful for me.
So my and I'm, me, Chad, we talked about this before, but I'm just sober, so nothing, right? Except coffee. Or caffeine. But there was a point in time, I will share that my little experience microdosing magic mushrooms helped me to stop drinking. And like it was kind of like a compounding thing, but like to your point, it was like a mindset shift I had. So once I was on mushrooms and I rolled into a bar, and it was like witching hour at this bar, like 12:30, 1 a.m. Everyone was loaded. But it was weird because when you're on that stuff, you kind of have this like different perception. It's this lens, right? And you're looking at things differently. And I was looking around and I was like, whoa, everyone in this bar is so drunk and they all look possessed. You know how they say, like, they call it spirits for a reason, right? They look possessed. And there was like this, like, you could tell there's this girl who usually when she's sober, she was all kind of buttoned up and like prim and proper, and she was acting all kind of like slutty over there. And I was like, oh, that's a bad look. And then there's, a guy who barely like formulate any words, just being super sloppy and stumbling around. There's a guy who was telling me the same thing 4 times because he kept forgetting what he was saying to me. You've had
classic,
that.
Yeah,
we've
classic.
all had that happen
I've
to
been
us.
there too, probably.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was like, I was just like, whoa, what is going on here? Everyone in here is like possessed. They're just drunk. And it just had this, like, it just left this impression with me that lingered for a bit. And I wouldn't have really seen it in that light if I was drunk. Or even if I was sober. But it was like something about like kind of being altered with these mushrooms, like had me view this in a whole different light. And I was just like, I started kind of getting more started thinking more deeply about being intoxicated like that and just drinking to get drunk. So that's kind of like, it was an early seed. Eventually, like, I just went clean sober for a variety of reasons, but at the end of the day, it was like the things that got me to do other things what usually started off with alcohol. And so therefore for me, I had to remove alcohol completely, because alcohol would get me to like smoke a cigarette, for example, when I had quit smoking 10 years ago. Right.
Dude. Yeah. God, that happened to me. I quit cigarettes for like a couple of years and then was drinking. I don't know, bummed one, and then it was all over. It was all over. I smoked cigarettes for like another couple of years after that. It's crazy. Dude, so you when you started, so you got sober, and then started the NA Beverage Company.
Correct.
Is that what happened?
Yeah.
Okay,
that's what happened.
And then like what really prompted that? Like why? I don't know, man. Because you said you were in the corporate world before.
Yeah.
What really prompted you to do that? I mean, because that's kind of a pretty crazy leap.
It is,
You
and I'm
know?
actually curious. I'll share mine, and I want you to share yours too. As you kind of started walking down the narrow path, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, for me, like, like 20 years in the corporate world. Like, I was a consultant, doing like private equity consulting. So basically, like mergers and acquisitions. So I
Oh,
worked
okay.
at like um, some pretty big firms, and I was like, the last company I was at. This was like in 2021. I went on like a not a bender, but like what I would say is like um, a bender in perspective. And like just had all these like a couple like rock bottom moments where I was just like, whoa. And remember, like 2021 was the year everything reopened. So
Yeah.
we're all making up for lost time.
Yeah.
And
Everybody's
just
like,
like,
hell yeah, go hard.
dude, I had like work conference in Vegas, Scottsdale, Arizona, San Diego. Like it's like
Is
expense
drinking
budgets are flying. Yeah.
okay? Yeah. Is drinking like in that industry? Is the drinking culture like pretty out of like
Yeah.
pretty wild? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
I figured that
wild.
way, but
Yeah, and it like used to be worse. Like when I was earlier in my career, like we have some stories. So it toned down a little bit, but then like 2021, it's like it was like an excuse for some reason to like go out and just like, like bring back let the old times like let the good times roll, right?
yeah.
So like the last event was my company holiday party, and again, like we haven't had company holiday parties for 2 years because they were closed down, and I was like the drunkest guy there. Like we showed up, me and my team, and we had already been drinking heavily, um rolling into the party, and it was like, like when you see a bunch of guys that are like drunk already, and you're like here and they're like here, and
Yeah.
you're just like, wow, you guys are obnoxious. We were those guys. I was like the drunkest guy there, and I'm a leader in that. I was a leader in that company. It just wasn't a good look for me, right? When I
Sure.
look back
Yeah.
at it, and
Yeah.
my wife was pissed off, and I was like,
That's
and
also not
I could
good.
see from her perspective, yeah, it was wild, and I just kept wanting to go out. You couldn't turn me off that night. And anyway, so after that, like in that January, like so I go to church. I've always considered myself spiritual, but this is kind of like where things kind of like leveled up for me. We did like these 28 days of prayer and fasting with my church. And so when we do that, I always do like a sober January or dry January.
Mhm.
And so I don't drink. And then when that was done, I tried to drink a beer and I just couldn't drink one. It was weird. And I was just like, oh, I couldn't finish it. I thought I wanted one so bad, but I couldn't do it. And then there's a couple of the instances where I tried to drink alcohol again, and like I was just felt really bad afterwards or whatnot. So it's like finally my body was telling me, hey man, you're done with this, right?
Yeah.
And so I got sober in 2022. And then a year later, I got laid off that same job. And I think it's because when I look back at it, they just knew like my heart wasn't in it. And all, I was like, well, why was I drinking? Why was I doing all these things? Why was I finding all these side quests in my life to keep myself? This is because I wasn't fulfilled in what I was doing. And it wasn't like my purpose. And the only reason why I was there was because I was making a ton of money. Right. And
Yeah.
so I finally, those chains were off. And I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to be my own boss. This is probably the only time I'm ever going to be able to do that. I'm going to freaking like, let's send it. Right. And so, I basically, I like to say that like, this sounds kooky, and I don't know where you like stand on some of this stuff, but it's like, God literally told me to start this company. And that's what I did. And I was
That's
like,
awesome.
but that's what I needed. That's like, I couldn't do that on my own. If it was just myself, my whole being was telling me to go back and find another job in the same spot. I could find another job easily.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I was like, I have a rare skill set. I'm like kind of smart sometimes. I work hard.
But you'd been in the industry for a while, and you had your connections in there. I'm sure it
Exactly.
would have been easy for you to get another job. Yeah.
Exactly. And I was like, you know what? Let's do this. So that's when I started making beers. And it was like just green lights. I was just talking about this with someone else. Ever do one of those things where you just get a series of green lights in your life, and you're just like, wow, I'm just going to keep doing this until there's a red, a bunch of red lights, and I'm stopping. There's just green lights. It was like, oh, you don't know. Oh, what? So the next question was, well, what I'm going to start? Boom, non-alcoholic beverage company. What's it called? The non-alcoholic beverage company, NA. Okay. Who's going to help you do that? What are you going to do first? Non-alcoholic beer. Do I even know how to make non-alcoholic beer? No. Here's a guy who's going to teach you how to make non-alcoholic beer, and he's going to figure out with you how to make a non-alcoholic. So I met a brewer, like at a brewery shop randomly. And he's like, yeah, I'll help you out. And so we're sitting here freaking brewing non-alcoholic beer, or trying to, in my garage, like literally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
dude,
we
I was gonna ask about the non-alcoholic beers, because I know that's what you started with first. So that's interesting.
Yeah. So I'm like, as you can imagine, 50 iterations of non-alcoholic beers until you figured out how to actually make one. And Athletic has already been blazing the trail, but everyone's kind of tight. No one wants to share how they make it non-alcoholic. I'm happy to share if anyone wants to know. It's not rocket science, but it is tricky. It's technical. And then we made a non-alcoholic beer. We're like, holy smokes, this tastes pretty freaking good. I was like, I'm not a brewer. How did we come up with this? And so I kind of finished the recipes off. That same guy that helped me in the beginning, he got busy, so I had to kind of finish the recipes. He went on to buy a brewery with another set of guys. And so now we had a brewery to make this non-alcoholic beer in. Oh. So I was like, talk about all these green lights, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy smokes, dude. How is it that in my hometown, this guy who was helping me is now like ready to make the beer? Now we had some hiccups along the way, and but still, we had commercially available beer about a year ago, and it was freaking delicious. I think some of the best non-alcoholic beer I've ever had. Now, couple different, it's learning experiences. And this is where I started seeing some of the red lights and the yellow lights, like making it shelf stable, making sure it's under 0.5% ABV. That started becoming an issue, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, how do we do this? So that kind of what got me to pivot into mocktails.
Okay.
So I was like, we're going to the mocktails. I remember trying all the different mocktails. Me and Blake, who's does a lot of R&D and operations. I consider him one of our partners. And he's like a guru with beverage formulations and operations and in that space. And so I'm like, hey man, let's make one of these, because he can formulate stuff. So we tried all the mocktails, right? Kin, Gaia, Dessoir, Curious, Recess, all of them. We're just they're either trying to follow too much. Hey, this is like a non-alcoholic margarita, and then so maybe that's just that, but it's a lot of sugar. So I was like, okay, well, why am I drinking this? I never really liked gin and tonics. Why do I want a non-alcoholic version? And then you had the adaptogen drinks. And I was like, okay, this is kind of where we should head down, right? Drinks with functional beverages. But what I found with some of those were they're a little too niche. It was like, okay, I can't drink this brand's drink with the sandwich at lunch. It's just kind of weird, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's fair. Yeah.
It's I can only drink this at night. But here's the thing, that's once or twice a week. I'm not drinking this every night, right? I was like, okay, we can make something that's more drinkable than this, right? But still consider it a mocktail. And the other part of me, I just told you, I'm sober. So I didn't want something that made me want alcohol. Because some of the non-alcoholic whiskeys I've had, I'm like, that's too close, man. And I was never in recovery, but there's some guys in recovery, you can probably get these customers all the time. You're like, hey, they know what they can't drink and they know what they can drink.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, some of those guys are even a little bit hesitant to step foot into the store. Just because, even something that kind of looks like, we'll say whiskey, gin, tequila, or whatever, could potentially be a little bit triggering for them. Yeah.
I had this really good, you probably heard of them, Glen House. Gosh, I forgot. Anyways, it was like a Scotch. It was a Scotch. and it's non-alcoholic. It was really close. And
That's cool.
I don't get triggered that often, but like that one, I was like, dang, I kind of want some whiskey.
Yeah, I do. It's funny you say that. Yeah, I gotta say, like, I think, the further removed I get from alcohol, the more I really just kind of lean into the things that are not mimicking alcohol at all.
Yeah.
Because it's like a whole new world of
Interesting.
flavors too.
Yeah.
And I find it to be really fun.
Oh,
I think
so are we getting in the right direction then, Chad? Is that what you're saying?
yeah. I mean, I think so. I mean, I think that's a good move. I think. I mean, well, first off, I think like choosing to go with like the functional route is a good move. I mean, that's definitely for our people. That's a category that's really exploded in like the last 2 years or so.
Yeah.
They're like, well, if I'm not going to drink alcohol, I mean, I would like there to be some kind of benefit to it, So yeah, that's huge. And then not mimicking alcohol, I think, is a good move. Don't get me wrong. There's always going to be a time and place for thing like non-alcoholic beers and whiskey substitutes and stuff like that. I think there will probably always be people who gravitate towards those. But me personally, I just like the things that are just like ripping their own path,
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm glad you mentioned that. Well, actually, that being said, I do want to pick your brain on this topic. The buzz alternatives.
Yeah.
So alcohol alternatives that do give you a buzz, like the adaptogen drinks and the nootropic drinks, they're just kind of like subtle mood enhancers.
Like they're not psychoactive.
They're not psychoactive. But even like, like obviously THC infused beverages or hemp-derived THC has been really popular. Breeze has really, I mean, there's plenty of brands doing it before Breeze, but Breeze is really like blazing the path there.
Dude, that guy's like killing it. That dude just posted. Dude, he just posted his their Q1, their 2025 Q1 revenue. It was like almost $13 million.
I know, he crushes. Well, that's what. Hey man, when you're selling pot in a can, dude, you're gonna. I'm pretty sure I can put up some good numbers if the moment I start putting THC in my drinks. But we're not going to do that. We're going to stay on this little narrow path. But I know you've got a perspective on this too, because you guys carry.
We do, yeah.
Well, we that's carry, a thing, yeah.
Mm-hmm. We carry some of the hemp derived products, the like Delta 9, and we have like CBD and stuff like that too. But for us, we waited a long time before we even brought that into the store because although like personally I'm totally cool with it, and so is my partner. We wanted to make sure that we were doing right by the people who walked through our door. We thought when we first opened, we were like, maybe a lot of straight edge people are going to be coming in here, and we didn't want it to be a turnoff for them. But I spent about a year just kind of asking people like, hey, how would you feel if this were in here? How would you feel if it was like over here, very clearly labeled? And for the most part, I mean, everybody was like, yeah. I mean, most people were like, hell yeah, like I would buy it. But then there were a few people who were like, it's not for me, but as long as it's clearly labeled and it helps you bring on some of these other things in the store, as far as from like a cash flow standpoint, then, they're like, we're all for it, so that was, and we really view, like THC and, just, hemp derived products as like harm reduction. Just personally at the store we do. I think anybody can be addicted to anything though. But I think for drugs that are out there, THC doesn't seem to be as detrimental as some. I mean, so I don't carry Kratom in the store because like that does. I get worried about that. And listen, I'm not trying to preach. I know there are stores that do. It's just not for us. I've had a few people. I mean, dude, I had somebody last week come into the store, and I hadn't seen them for a while. Hey, how's everything been? And they were like, I'm doing better now, blah, blah, blah. And then we kind of got to chatting a little bit more. And they were like, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, you haven't seen me here because I ended up getting like an extreme kratom addiction. And they were on, Suboxone, which is like to help people withdraw from opioids.
Yep.
And it was because of these kratom concentrates that they were getting from like vape shops and stuff like that. And I don't know, man. That's just not a road that I want to go down. I don't want to perpetuate that. I mean, I don't. And honestly, the people who have come into the store asking for kratom are not necessarily the people who I would want to cater to. I guess I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Then do you find that like the hemp-derived THC drinks, like what sometimes people think too, it's like, okay, is this going to turn my non-alcoholic bottle shop into like a head shop?
Yeah.
Have you observed that, or is it still like same kind of audience, same kind of customer base?
Yeah, I would say it is. It really hasn't changed. Yeah, it really hasn't changed us that much. I mean, the vibe is still very much like, everybody who comes in the store, they all kind of have this like commonality where they're all looking to better themselves in some way, right? They're all looking to, and that's, without alcohol, right? So, it really hasn't changed the vibe of the store, but our sales of that are, I think a lot of I don't know, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but our those sales don't make up like the bulk of our revenue.
Oh, interesting. Okay, got it. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. I mean, I've had so many people come into the store, and once they find out we have those products, they're like, "Oh, that's interesting," and we give them the spiel. It's like a lot of the stuff we have we consider like a microdose, and so then we have people try them, and they're like, "Okay, like this is great." I still can kind of take the edge off a little bit, and they're like, "I don't feel like I need alcohol anymore or as much," So it's super interesting. Most of the people who come to our store are still kind of looking to take the edge off in some way, and that's why that category is really popular, and then just like the general functional category is really popular because I don't know, like life's tough and people still want to relax.
Yeah, exactly, but without putting poison in their bodies.
I mean, definitely, right? And they want to wake up the next day like feeling good, ready to pop out of bed, and and so that's why that's also why Kava is another like really popular.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. How's Kava doing? Kava's blowing up. Yeah,
Kava is blowing up. Yeah, definitely. And like, it does really well in our store. People love it because it has more of a. I don't know. I mean, it's mildly psychoactive, right? And I guess it kind of feels more like alcohol. I guess. I mean, it's its own thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, people love that like feeling of relaxation they get. They sleep really well with it, and then wake up just feeling great. But yeah. So like
we would never put hemp-derived THC in our drinks, but like Kava's always been a question mark. But what I was like, okay, is it better to like obviously it's getting a lot of momentum. Would it make sense for NA to have one Kava infused drink? Or do we just say, you know what, we're just strictly adaptogens and nootropics? So I'm like mixed on it. But I drink it. I've had it. I think it's the reason why I haven't like really taken that leap either. Like first, I kind of consider myself as a consumer. I personally don't love Kava. Just because like I feel a little too slow when I drink it. Like I was like sampling Kava for people once and trying to explain what it was. I was doing a little demo for my friend Zane, who has the non-alcoholic bottle shop in San Diego, and he had me do my drinks as well as Lalo. And so I was sampling both, and I was trying to talk to people about Lalo, but every time I drank the Kava, I couldn't explain the words anymore. What I wanted to say. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, like, there's a time for this, but it's not when you're trying to
not when you're there trying to sell your product.
Exactly. It's like maybe at night when I'm at home and I want to like unwind and relax and like have a drink before going to bed, but not right now. So that's why it never really stuck for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. And to be honest, that's exactly how I use Kava. It is just like in the evening. I mean, like very rarely am I drinking that during the day, but it's like I know a lot of people do. It's just not.
Yeah.
And
then have you had Kanna before?
Yeah. I like Kanna. We carry some Kanna beverages. There aren't like a ton out there right now, but I like it. I mean, I've tried Kanna in just like its extract form too. I like it. It's interesting. I mean, I think Kanna is is psychedelic in large
Is it?
dosages. I
Yeah.
mean, I've never done that, um, but I like the effect of it. Yeah, it's interesting. Um, I don't feel it as much as Kava, I feel like,
Yeah.
but maybe I've just never taken enough of it. But it's like somebody put it best, like in my store. He was like, he's like, he's like with Connie, he's like, if you're having a bad day and you drink it, it'll make you feel better. And he's like, it's not it doesn't like in small dosages. I guess it doesn't like give you that buzz, like
Yeah.
right, like that noticeable buzz, like that head buzz you kind of get from Kava, or like
Got it.
certainly
Interesting.
like THC. But yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I'm like, I at the end of the day, I'm with you, man. It's like an alternative to alcohol. Because at the end of the day, alcohol, we've seen the damage it does, not only to your physical body, but also like you like mentally and relationships and things like that. But there are people that can handle alcohol just fine, right? We call them normies. But at the end of the day,
So
um,
you call them normies? Is that what you?
normies, yeah, they call
Oh,
them
okay.
normies. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I
normal
haven't heard
people.
that.
It's actually not
Okay.
normal to be able to handle alcohol, though, right? It's like most people are like,
I was like, I
next thing I
haven't heard
know,
that.
like
Yeah.
my pants are off in the middle of the
Yeah.
bar, right?
Yeah.
That's me, right? No, just kidding. That's only happened a handful of times. But the no, but like yeah, I think normal people, like my wife is a normie. She drinks on occasion. She can literally have one drink and she's good.
Oh yeah, that's like a
Doesn't need
superpower.
another one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and she never understood. I think that's why she never gave me too much. She just didn't understand. She goes, I don't understand you. Why can't you just be normal and just have, like, why do you need to go that far? And then it also hit me. I mean, we all heard that Huberman podcast that your brain, the part of your brain that, your frontal, lobe or something that kind of helps with like impulse control. Like literally alcohol like shuts it down. That's why we talk louder. That's why we like say things we don't, we know we shouldn't say, or do things
Yeah.
we shouldn't do. And so that's the same thing that keeps you from saying to yourself, oh, maybe I shouldn't have another drink.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
And for some people that it just turns off fast enough that the next year, no, you're just, you've had 20 drinks. And but I feel like most people cannot handle it, but there are some people that can. But that said, like, your customer base though, it's interesting. You said like you had your straight, how would you describe them? You had your straight edge folks, you had your kind of sober curious folks. Like how would you, but you said in
Yeah.
general they're all trying to like kind of they're more health conscious, it sounds like.
Yeah, generally. Yeah. I mean, pretty much everybody who comes to the store, I mean, they do tend to be a little bit more savvy in the sense that they are like paying attention to what they're putting in their body. I mean, they're like, many of these people are label readers. I mean, they're like inspecting the labels. But yeah, like it's 95% of the people who come into my store still drink alcohol in some capacity. And that's like why we're very clear about like, we don't preach sobriety at the store, because it's like not, very early on, we decided we weren't going to do that because it didn't really feel like our place anyway. I mean, don't get me wrong. If anybody like wants to talk about it, like if they ask me about it and they want to ask, and they're like asking me about like, my personal relationship with it and stuff like that, I'm more than happy to talk to people about it. But like, we don't like preach about it because the store is really for everybody. It's like I don't want to alienate anybody by doing that, but yeah, 95% of people who walk in the store do still drink alcohol, which is super interesting. So I would say they're mostly like, most of the people who come in are, I guess, like sober curious, would be the term.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I've been struggling with tiptoeing around that myself too, because most of our customers, they also drink alcohol. They're sober curious and they like their drinks. But at the same time, like I started the company out of my sobriety. So it's like, I've always been balancing. I'm like, I wonder if this comes off as like sober preachy.
Yeah,
But
you
then
know
again,
what?
like, yeah, how do you like
Well,
draw the
well,
line or
well,
make the
yeah,
distinction? Yeah,
I know. I think it's really tough. I mean, because like as a brand, as a storefront, it's one thing, but as a
yeah,
non-alcoholic brand, I mean, it's almost different. Like you almost do kind of have to be a little bit more blatant. I don't think any of your stuff, just by looking at it, and I don't think
yeah,
it definitely doesn't come off as like preachy to me.
yeah,
It just
yeah,
doesn't. It's like it's they know where you stand. I feel like, particularly like if they go to your website,
yeah.
but it's not like you're not like on a soapbox being like, oh yeah, like you you should be sober from alcohol. You know, I
Yeah,
mean, you're just not doing that.
yeah,
Yeah, but I do think there's definitely a fine line, um,
yeah.
to where it could maybe be off-putting for some people if it is like if it does come across as too preachy.
But the people that are would be offended, they're not your customers anyways, right, Chad?
And the people that
Those are
would
the
be
same
offended,
people that were jeering at you,
yeah, definitely. I mean,
right?
yeah,
That's what
definitely.
this is where I'm like, I don't know, right? It's like because at the same time, um, it's the people that jeer at me, right? I'm just like, well, you know what? Like, um, these are facts. Alcohol is bad for you, like
Yeah, I
any
mean,
amount.
I mean, it's like pretty clear now. Yeah,
Like the U.S. General has come out and said it actually causes cancer. Like
yeah,
you knew it wasn't good for you because you don't feel good after you drink too much of it. But now it's
yeah,
like, and that's fine if you still drink it. It's like I know seed oils are bad for me, but I have them anyways,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, seed oils in
right?
moderation, anything in moderation.
Yeah, right. It's like, but I know, like, sometimes I get the avocado oil chips, right? Like,
That's
right? But
hilarious.
you know what I mean? Like,
I do, yeah,
but like that to me, if I can apply that to alcohol, it's like, you know what? Every once in a while, I think this is our customer. It's like every once in a while, I want to let loose. I want a little buzz. I want to drink, and that's okay. But like we're but the moment where you're like kind of finally decide drinking every day is just not good for me and it's kind of holding me back from doing other things, I've
yeah,
got an option for you.
yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah. That's a good way to put it. That's kind of how we put it at the store too. It's like, um, I've told people this a lot. It's like I don't think that alcohol should necessarily go away. I mean, I think you should have the right to drink it if you want, but you should
yeah,
also have some better options for you, and like we're there to provide
yes,
those options when you're ready and if you want them. You
yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah. And here we are, man. Hey, Chad, I got to ask you another thing. What uh, what keeps you going in this space, man?
Dude.
You've had some roadblocks early on where honestly, if that was me, I would have probably quit if I didn't have some strong
Yeah.
conviction about this.
Yeah, well, it was interesting. I mean, when we first started Alt City, I actually was still drinking, um, in 2019, and I was, drinking like pretty heavily too.
Mhm.
And then, kind of, it was at Alt City. I guess I never mentioned the name of the company, but yeah, at that company that we had early
Got
on,
it.
um, it kind of, I felt like I was like peddling like NA. Yeah, I felt like I was an imposter. You know what I mean? I was like peddling
Yeah.
NA products and then going home, getting wasted.
Hmm.
So I quit
Hmm.
drinking. Then and then like I don't know. I mean, I saw. I think I really just started to see like how helpful some of the stuff was that we were offering people, like how much it changed their lives. And I mean, I don't want to sound all cliche here, but it's like, I mean, dude, I've had a bunch of people since we've opened the bottle shop who have told me, they're like, dude, since you've opened this and you've introduced me to these products, like I have not had a drop of alcohol. And like my life is better. My relation, like, it's like my marriage is better. I'm a better dad or a better mom, like to my kids, just like everything. They just like, they tell me like how much their life is better. And like that, I think, I mean, that's a big part of why I keep doing it. Cause in some sense, I mean, that's kind of selfish, right? I mean, it's kind of like self-fulfilling because it's like, I don't know, but that's what keeps me going.
Yeah.
Just like hearing those stories from people and like how these products have changed their life like for the better. And then also too, like I'm just really curious to see where this goes. Like I don't even know. It's like we all have ideas where we think this space is going to be in 5 years, but it's like,
Yeah.
you know, it, I don't know. Am I going to be right about any of those? Like, what brands are still going to be around? Who's gonna come? Who's gonna go? I don't know. I'm just
Yeah.
intrigued.
This is where, let's be honest, there's easier ways to make money than what we're doing. And so
Yeah.
like we're doing this because we're
Yeah.
passionate about it. And here's the other thing why I think we do this. And I think now that I've gotten to know you, Chad, we're like cut from the same cloth. And I cued on this earlier when you said this. We're kind of like being against the grain. We kind of like, it's like a little punk rock, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. I've always, in some sense, like enjoyed being like a contrarian.
Exactly. We're contrarians, man. We do non-alcoholic beverages. Come on. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So, I'm gonna quit when this all becomes cool. No.
No, 100%. I was like, okay. I was like,
yeah, that's not cool anymore.
Like, I love, like, you're the same. We're the same guys that root for the underdog, right? Who like you know what I mean? Like we don't like, yes, this is a trend, but it's still very much so like it is a movement, but it's still pretty underground, and it is against the grain.
Yeah,
it's super against the grain.
It definitely is. Yeah. I'd say that's a pretty good way to put it. I mean, I think there's definitely some truth to that too. I enjoy that aspect of it.
I love it too. Like you just can't, don't put me in the box, and I was doing something that the world told me to do this entire time, and now we are doing things that it's not like, your parents didn't have dreams for you to get into the non-alcoholic beverage industry and start a bottle shop, right? You know what I mean?
Definitely not. Definitely not.
But
it's
here we are, man.
Yeah, I've been like I said, I'm just super excited to kind of see like where this goes.
Where do you? So give me. Let's end with this. Predictions for 2025, or maybe even beyond. What kind of trends are you seeing?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I think we're still gonna see more functional stuff hit, like more alternative things, right? I mean, that space is definitely going to continue to grow, and I really think that you're going to see a lot more beverages that are not mimicking anything. I think you're going to see more people, put some time and effort and love into just developing some really complex adult beverages that are not necessarily mimicking anything. I think, I don't know, this is definitely not going to happen, at least not in my area this year. But like NA bars, I think like functional bars, you'll probably see more of those maybe. Dude, NA bars are interesting. I mean, have you like just considered that like at all? I mean, I don't know, in your area, do you have any like strictly not?
We have one opening soon in San Diego. Good news. San Diego is opening up a non-alcoholic bar. It's also a bottle shop, but it's like a full-on legit bar. Yeah.
I've had a couple people like over the years tell me like, oh yeah, like I'm going to open a non-alcoholic bar in Grand Rapids, but it wasn't going to be a bottle shop. It was just going to be a bar. It's just serving our drinks. I feel like that concept, like just as a standalone, is extremely difficult because like I don't know, dude. Think about when you used to drink. Like I know you said you didn't like gin and tonics. I like gin and tonics, and like when I would,
I was a Jack and Coke guy. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
a lot of Jack.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, when you're out and you're with your buddies, you're having a good time. You might order 8 drinks, maybe. I mean, maybe more. I don't know. With the NA stuff, you just don't drink like that. So I don't know. I mean, it almost needs to be attached to something else. But I think that I think people can make it work. You're seeing like the functional bars work in like Florida and stuff like that, where they're like kind of like Kava and like hemp bars. But I think that's super interesting. That really intrigues me. I would love to open something like that here. I don't know. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if like a bunch of people are going to be jumping in doing that, but I think you're going to see more people at least attempt attempt
Yeah.
that, like to recreate that like social aspect of an alcoholic bar.
Yeah. I've been
Um,
seeing like not at dedicated venues, but more like pop-up events where there might be a DJ. Like in San Diego, there's a clothing brand, lifestyle brand called Pink Seven that hosts a lot of events. And they'll do like maybe like a wellness type event with like a cold plunge and a sauna, and
yeah,
then they'll like invite me to sample out drinks. They've also done um, like DJs at like a juice bar with like playing EDM and calling it house without a hangover, and like curated these like parties without alcohol. So it happens in like
that's
pop-ups, and I
that's
think they
cool.
just had an event this weekend with again pop-up group called Daybreaker that's been going around throwing like day raves in like different spots that are sober. So it kind of happens in pop-ups, but like to your point, I haven't seen it in like a dedicated space, which is interesting. And that's their entire business model. Because all the advice that I see non-alcoholic bottle shops getting are, you know what, you might need to supplement the bottle shop revenue with like a cafe type concept too, and like serving food or coffee or something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, definitely. When we originally opened our space, like we had in the plans, we had a bar in there. There was going to be a bar, but we were like, it was like really increase the cost of the build out. We're like, we don't even know if this is
yeah,
gonna work anyway. It's like, let's just see if like I guess if
yeah,
it fails, we lose less money, right? So,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
but yeah, I almost think you need to be attached to something else.
yeah. At least in the short term, maybe this is
I was
like
just going to say that, yeah, but
exactly.
at least right now, until it becomes a little bit more mainstream. But I'll be really curious to see kind of how that unfolds, and it's going to happen probably, on the west or the east coast first. I mean, there actually is. It's called. Is it called Hakate? Let me see. There's a dedicated there is a dedicated, it's just like a non-alcoholic bar.
I mean, I could see this happening in Detroit too. You got a lot of hipsters in Detroit now, Chad.
Yeah, I mean that's true too,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
uh, what about for you, for like from the being like on the manufacturing side of things? I mean, what do you
Yeah.
think? Like,
Well, I'm glad I talked to you, just getting a pulse on the market from your perspective on kind of like where we've decided to focus and um, where we'll keep going. For like us, we're like, we think we're like this great non-alcoholic beverage company that nobody's heard of. So it's like we just need to like keep putting money into the machine to keep expanding.
yeah,
And so right now, like we're fundraising, or at least we're starting. So I'm starting those conversations. I've been bootstrapping this thing this whole time myself,
okay,
and now it's like, hey, we've got all these kind of leads with like some bigger chains. We want to like do more D2C. You see like the Breeze guy just posting up some freaking monster numbers. You're like, oh yeah, maybe we should start selling some stuff
yeah.
online.
Well,
Like,
I mean, the margins in D2C are a lot better.
sometimes, I mean, when you're shipping cans, you're shipping cans. That's what I've noticed too.
That's fair too,
So
though.
we're like still trying to settle into like our like look and feel. The cans you have, they're very uh, um, they're nice looking, but we're like, oh, well, we have some like edgier versions. We always go back and forth
Oh,
between
okay.
8.4 ounce versus 12 ounce. And like we get people's feedback on that. I don't know if you got any feedback in your shop around like the size of cans. Um, and
Yeah.
then uh, and then we've got new flavors and functions. Like we've got an immunity drink ready to go. We've got other different flavor profiles for energy. stuff that like has a little bit more caffeine with cordyceps mushrooms in it as well. So
Cool.
we're always like, we've got all these things ready, but like, and just like, it's like one of those things, like the advice people give you is don't be tempted to proliferate your SKUs. Try to sell your existing stuff to more people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I've heard that a lot too. Yeah, it's like I think
Yeah.
at some point you could just kind of like muddy the waters, so to speak, with too many SKUs.
And that's where
You know?
Breeze did a really good job.
So-
Like they had one SKU and
Yeah,
they
dude,
just
it's like,
freaking pushed it.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Are
So
you
we
ever
do have something in the
what?
works with let me know. I'm going to test this idea with you. We're pretty close to actually getting it done. Drink powders.
Yeah,
So-
dude, I've thought about this a lot. I've seen like a few out there.
Recess has them.
Yep, Recess has them. And then there's a company, so they're in the hemp space, but it's called Berlixi. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but they have like powdered drinks you just kind of add to sparkling water or something like that. I don't, it's funny. I've become so close to bringing those on. I just haven't. I really should, just because there's not a whole lot of risk there. I just
and you just throw them right next to the checkout. Like
that's what I would do. Yeah, definitely. Just put them in
Yeah.
like a little, I don't know.
Or like $2-3. I don't know. You just grab them and you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I do think that people would appreciate those, because the problem is the problem that I hear from people at my store. It's like there aren't enough good NA options when I'm out and about. So if I'm like at a restaurant, if I'm going, say they're going to like a concert or whatever, blah blah, there's just like not much. So like these drink powders, they can just like slip into their pocket. And, kind of sneak in there. Yeah.
100%, man. And then like still, by the way, we are trying to get into more entertainment venues. We think that's kind of an untapped area. Like everyone's kind of trying to get on shelf space at a chain grocery store.
Yeah.
We're like, we got to do that too. But like, why are we not trying harder to get into like a theme park or a concert venue or something like that? If their non-alcoholic options are horrible. But then another angle is how do we, like I went to an Angels game the other day. Last year. And then I snuck in like some non-alc beers in my kids, like my baby's like bottle stuff, you know what I mean? Like underneath the thing where like when they search through it, and I was like, because I know they're not gonna have anything. I was like, but if I had a stick pack and I bought a sparkling water when I was there, so I'm buying something, or maybe not, just using water.
$12 liquid death.
Exactly. And make it functional. Maybe I'll just stick with the tap water from the water fountain. No, but like even like let's say you're traveling somewhere, that happens a lot too. Because when I used to travel a lot, I was just like, and if I wasn't drinking, I was like, you know what? I know I'm going to be in some social events and settings. I don't know what their non-alc options are going to be like. I'm going to be in Vegas or something. I'm going to bring a couple of these mocktails to go from the NA Beverage Company, which I'm already drinking the the liquid can RTD versions of, and then I'll have my favorite mocktails with me, and we'll stick that for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think
could work.
I think it's a good idea. I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, and also too, man, just like from your shipping, standpoint, dude, the shipping. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, I mean, it's like that would
and the storage. You know how much I pay people to like lug water around?
That's funny. Yeah, I didn't even consider that, but probably a lot. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, to the warehouse, to my e-commerce fulfillment center in Utah, just from the place it's made to the warehouse, like the local warehouse where it's stored. It's just big freaking truckloads of just water in cans, right?
Yeah. I think this is
wild. And then I pay to store it at a warehouse, and it's by pallet, right? Like in stick packs, they're pretty compact, man.
It's pretty compact. Yeah, definitely.
I can store them right here in my house.
In your basement.
Yeah.
Dude,
let's see where it goes. Yeah. We got. It's one of those green light scenarios, right? It's like let's see how many green lights we get going down this path.
It makes sense. I mean, if you could just pilot that, I guess, with if you didn't have to do a bunch, and you could just kind of pilot it. I don't know if
I'll let you pilot them at your shop, Chad. I'll
send
you some over.
Well, dude.
There'll be promos. There'll be samples.
Dude, we and this doesn't need to like make it into wherever this is going to be posted. But we're launching our own products this year.
Dude, let's go.
And I don't want to speak too much on it right now. It is in a large format bottle, and it's not mimicking alcohol. It's just doing its own thing. Like everything in it
Yeah.
is, whole ingredients, like roots, herbs, spices. It's all organic. I'm super pumped about it, and I'm hoping to have that launched by earlier this year. I was like, yeah, like I'm really hoping June, and this is something that I've been working on like for since before earlier this year. Like I've been working on it for a while now.
Yeah.
But it's kind of
Let's
looking like
go.
it'll be in the fall. If you want, would you be willing to be like a
100%.
guinea pig? I'll send you a bottle.
Oh,
of it
love.
okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So with these, again, like you just kind of have to do it, but I'm not sure if there's any alternatives which might be differentiating in this space. If you've noticed all of the non-alcoholic spirits, because you need to, it's not intended to be consumed all at once.
Yeah.
It's like resealed. You need to keep it stable, and so you have to put potassium sorbate and sodium benzoate in it. And so like Jerome, Kava Haven, like everyone's got those, and they're artificial. So remember, our customers, they're label readers. And so some of them, I don't know if you ever seen this in your shop, but some people are like, you know what, I like this as non-alcoholic, but I don't like that these are artificial preservatives.
I
now
definitely
industry standard. Their industry standard, like it's the same thing with natural flavors. It's like, well, what are these? We have natural flavors in ours, but I'll tell you what they are, right? It's just more like a trade secret thing. But like they're like, oh, what are these natural flavors in here? Or what's sodium benzoate and potassium sorbate? What's that in there? So that's the only thing. Like, would be cool if we saw a spirit that didn't have to. That could be like just like organic, or plant based.
Yeah.
That's solved for that. I just don't think there's stuff in the market that, well, maybe Kyber. There's a thing called Kyber. It's a white
it's a
mushroom
mushroom.
extract.
Yeah. So apparently I was talking with, she's a food scientist. She was like, that just doesn't work as well as what they market.
It doesn't. I've used it.
Okay. Yeah.
You know who uses that though?
I always called it chider.
Abstinence.
Oh, do they? Okay. That's
you could pick their brain. I think they don't. I think they use a mushroom extract. Yeah.
I think Bon Buzz does too.
She
just when she released her new formula, it was like it has a clean label, which is super cool. So I don't know. I mean, maybe, but also maybe their pH is low enough, or maybe I don't really know. I mean, I don't. But I don't know. For us,
but that would be interesting if you could solve that. That would be super differentiating.
So I think for us, at least right now, we won't have preservatives, but it'll likely have to be refrigerated once it's opened.
Yeah, got it.
But
so you'll pasteurize it, probably nuke it, and then once it's refrigerated after opening, it's good for 7 days or whatever it is.
Yeah, definitely, or hopefully hopefully longer than that, because I mean it does have like a pretty low pH, but yeah, I know, and I went back and forth because it's like should we put that it would certainly be a lot easier from a co-packer's standpoint to like put preservatives in it, actually. It'd be because then we could kind of change our overall process, and it would be a little bit cheaper. But I don't know.
That's always been the hurdle in my mind in going into spirits. Like when like I was like, oh yeah, how do we make it shelf stable without?
Yeah, definitely. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, when it's finished, I'll reach out.
I want to try it, man.
Yeah.
This is the next Jerome.
Dude, I love Droma, actually.
Jerome's great.
He's great too, Dave. He's just been like super supportive of our shop, and I mean we sell the shit out of Droma at our shop.
Dude. Jerome Calm, man. Good drink.
Yeah, it is. I like how it just stands up on its own. I mean, it's like you could drink it on the rocks.
And mix it with Kava Haven.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, I haven't tried that, but I'm sure that'd be good.
Yeah, no, that's the way I had it once. Zane turned me onto it. He goes, "Yeah, just put
Okay.
these two things together, you're good."
Yeah, dude, heck yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Oh
That's
man,
cool.
Chad, this is awesome, dude.
Yeah,
Time
this
just
was
flies,
fun, man.
man.
This was fun. I
Yeah,
appreciate it. We should we should do it again
we should
sometime.
do this
Maybe
again.
if there are like
Yeah,
other things, maybe there's who knows? Who knows what will be going on in the industry? Maybe there's some shit we think we should chat
I
about.
know. Yeah,
Um
we'll
yeah,
riff on it. Yeah,
yeah.
that'd
Yeah,
be
and
good.
maybe
And then, well, hopefully this thing freaking recorded, dude. I don't. It's recording something. I just don't know what it's going to look like
yeah,
when it's done. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's like,
definitely.
yeah, we
Um
might need to. If
well
we keep doing this, I might upgrade our, you know, remote podcasting capabilities.
dude, I think it's pretty cool that you're doing this like for content though. I think it's a good idea. Just to I don't know, just like to have just like really but just conversations about this space, like just real
Yeah,
stripped down, kind of like no frills conversations about this
yeah.
space.
And I didn't know how. Like I used to like when I was looking at our digital presence and social media strategy, I kind of approached it like any brand would. It's like, yeah, we're gonna post pictures of cans and lifestyle shots and freaking
Yeah,
mocktails, you know. And I was like, and I was doing that for a while. I'm like this is not a way to stand out, right? Especially in a market that's getting a little bit more saturated every day. And it's not like, so I was like, what can we do that's a little different? And so I got like, some different friends that are content creators. They're like, and I'm like, and how do I do this when you're budget constrained? They're like, dude, you have to make content. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, yeah, I posted up this picture of my wife making a freaking smoothie out of a drink. And it was like, it's like, no, dude, like you have to make real content. You have to be a content creator. And I was like, I'm not going to be a freaking content creator. I'm like, I got a freaking business. I got all these other things to do. But the reality is, like in this day and age, what people expect is they want to know. This is what I saw again. I'm just getting brainwashed by what's on TikTok and Instagram. So I don't know if this is true or not. I'm just regurgitating.
yeah.
But they're like, nowadays, people want to know. They don't want to, like, they're not going to buy your brand until they know who you are and why you're doing what you're doing. And I'm like, Rick, okay, so you want to see me talking about the NA Beverage Company, and that to you, now Dan is now synonymous with NA, and
Yeah.
rather than trying to make them separate things. And so if you look at my Instagram now, it's slowly turning into more like talking head of me talking about some random stuff or a clip. Or something related to like reducing your reliance on alcohol. Like I had a clip on there where like we did a press ski with my kids, and I was like, oh, I'll just record this and say, I'm teaching my kids. It just kind of came to me like, at what age do you start teaching your? Because it used to be like, remember, you used to press ski or something like that. Like we're pounding beers, man. We're like long day at the slopes. I'm drinking. Even if you're with your kids, right? No big deal. Like you don't think about it. But then again, like we're at that age, they're imprinting on them, and they're like, they're saying, oh, after I do something to celebrate, I need to drink alcohol. And then you're teaching that to your kids inadvertently. I was like, you know what? Like, how do you break those cycles? And it's like, oh, well, you start early, like now. And so I gave them all a mocktail, and we popped it open, and we like did a little cheers, and then we drank it.
Yeah, you know what?
I just recorded it.
I saw that. I actually saw
That's
that.
content, right?
It is, yeah. And I the comments on that were actually like pretty cool because like I think people really appreciate it because it seems like because it seemed very genuine. It's just like like these are my like I'm a family
kids.
man. These are my kids.
Life.
This is my family. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and like people in the comments were really appreciating that.
Yeah. So I think like the more of that kind of stuff, I just let it hang out there, like in being vulnerable and like sharing more about like, I mean, I don't really care, right? But like also making content. That's why I asked you too. I was like, man, how do I like toe the line between not coming off as preachy? Because I'm always tempted to do a post about like how alcohol is bad for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? Let's see how it goes. Like maybe I'll do it, but then again, like I don't want it to come off as preachy because a lot of my customers they're the same as yours. You know what I mean? So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I just think I think it really is just kind of the way. It's funny because you could do a post like that, but
I've done like a Huberman one where I like
Okay,
point
okay.
back to a Huberman pot, and like it got like a decent. I just think I probably could have done a better job on it. I'm not just learning how to make content.
Dude,
So
I don't know shit about that's I don't, dude. Oh God. I really don't
honestly, it's
like
one of those
social
things you
media
just keep
to
doing it and you get better at it,
yeah, you just keep doing it and doing it.
and,
I don't know.
you find your
I hate
lane.
it. It's true,
Like
you do.
I don't know what my lane is yet. I don't know like what kind of content when you come to the NA Beverage Company, like what kind of content do you expect? Right?
Yeah.
It's like
That
is
yeah,
it
that's you're
Dan?
seeing what works
Yeah.
out. I mean, I think I just saw, I think one of your most recent posts, like you were like taking a cold plunge, or maybe it was a story. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it might have been
I
a
was like,
story.
I don't know how this is gonna do. Let's see what
Yeah,
happens.
it was good though. It was good. I thought it was good. Yeah, just keep doing it. See what works.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like, and then what else? But like, like let's take Rob from Generation NA. Like, we know what to expect when I see a piece of content from him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I mean, they have like a highly curated
yeah,
social media presence. I mean,
yeah.
they put a lot of time and effort into those reels
Oh
they
yeah,
make too. I mean, just a
exactly.
lot.
Yeah,
I think like
exactly.
his background, I think like he has some videography background. I could be wrong on that, or maybe like a marketing background.
I
I'm not sure,
I can see that. Yeah,
but
but
I
to your
could
point,
see
that's
it.
like a lot of effort. Like, I don't have time to do stuff like that. No,
It's
it's
a
like, what can
ton.
I
I
do though?
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Some of those videos I see them make, I'm like, wow. I mean, they're great. I'm like, yeah, I don't have the like, I can't do that.
So you'll see, but like but I just talking to you, what you're good at, and like you and I are similar, and we're like good at the talking head stuff because we have things to say that people would want to hear. I think at least that's my hypothesis. We'll find
Yeah,
out. So I'm
yeah,
actually going to do like a little podcast setup at my house, like literally like right there. I'm going to put like this wall back there, and then with some nice lighting and like the boom mic thing.
oh
And
yeah,
I'm
cool.
like, I have so many topics to talk about, like anything from like, benefits of yerba mate, right?
Yeah,
Or even what's a functional mocktail, to like, things about, living a sober lifestyle, right? So I was like, oh, okay. I think that's like a little easier for me, a little bit of effort to put the thing together, but it's like, boom, I just need to like crank out a piece of content real quick,
yeah, but
just throw
like that
yourself out there.
content just comes easy, because it's something you could
Yeah.
like. Yeah, you don't
But
need to
I
like,
couldn't put a skit together.
no,
I couldn't put
no.
a skit together about Easter being on the same day as 420,
Yeah, yeah.
and having a Rastafarian Jesus walking around with a sign that says he is
I
resin, which was
I have
I was
resin. Yeah,
which was very creative.
ridiculous. Ridiculous. No, they do a wonderful job. With their
Yeah,
social media for sure. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know, but we'll again just trying to be scrappy. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, dude, I struggle like with social media just generally because I don't even have my own like personal social media. I just I have a hard time like I struggle because I feel like I need to be glued to it, and I feel like I have some pretty strong opinions about social media in general and kind of like what it's done to
I know.
people.
I
But
know.
it's also but like as a small business, I mean, it is to some
I was
extent
off of it
necessity.
for 2 years. When I stopped drinking,
Yeah,
I also did
yeah,
a social
you
media.
went straight. You were like real straight edge then, just
Yeah,
coffee
yeah, no
and nothing
social
else.
media for at least a year or two. Yeah, I think 2 years I was off it completely. I just like
It
deleted
feels
that.
pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
does. It feels really good. The one thing I always kept using though was Reddit, but like Reddit is different. Like Reddit, I mean, it's social media, but you're just kind of lurking. It's like it's just a lot. It just feels a lot different. I guess it's all anonymous, and
Right.
maybe it's not. But yeah, man.
A
But
different form.
yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like social media, like too much of it, just really makes me feel bad about myself.
No, I lately the anxiety I get with social media is really needing to keep up with it. And
Yeah.
like, I'm like, oh, you got to post every day. You got to do,
Yeah, or
how's
like
this going
X
to go?
amount of times a week. It's like, what are these, what are
Like,
the
what's this piece of
hashtags I'm gonna
content? Is this
use?
going
And
to
like, what am
hit
I
or
gonna
is it going to tank?
Dude, I
Yeah.
know.
I'm just like, what are people going to think of it? I'm just like, oh. And I think there is a point where you evolve out of that. And then, because I'm slowly getting there, I'm just like, I kind of remind myself, I go, I mean, it's not like I have 100,000 followers. It's just like,
No.
I barely exist. Like,
Like, yeah,
who
yeah.
cares?
Like you and I like are we like, yeah. In the
Who
grand scheme of
freaking
things, it's
cares?
like nobody really
I'm the
watching
only one
us.
that cares. Right,
Yeah,
exactly. It's like one of those
definitely.
things. It's like, it's that moment in life where you realize that nobody's actually thinking about you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like it's actually very freeing,
Yeah. So now
Like
I'm just
that.
like, I'm just going to post this, whatever.
Yeah. Why not? Why not?
Who cares? Might as well make the mistakes now, right?
Yeah. Before you get those 100,000 followers.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, at some point you're like, hey, you got to watch what you say in public or online. I was like, oh, it's like whatever.
Oh man.
Dude, Chad,
Cool.
you're the man,
Yeah.
dude. I
It was
appreciate this.
nice chatting, dude.
I'm gonna edit this thing and let's see what kind of
Yeah.
like
Yeah. We'll see
little
little
clips we
snippets
can
out of
get.
it. And yeah, like I
I
said,
get
if
you
you
some
want to,
social media content.
yeah. Perfect. Dude.
Yeah,
Thank
post
you.
it on your Instagram. Yeah, there you go. I got you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's if you ever want to do this again, and who knows, like maybe we can invite your buddy from the other bottle shop if you
Yeah. Go to three-way.
from
That'd be
Monday
cool.
Monday morning,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's a
Yeah,
good
or
idea.
just whatever, I'm down. So this is fun. I appreciate you putting this together, and
Dude,
it was a great
and
idea.
think about how it started.
Yeah,
Comments.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
The comment section.
It all started
From
in the
all
comment
the bitter.
section and all the
Exactly.
bitter posts. Yeah.
We can thank the all the bitter folks. You know, if you didn't know who I was before, you do now after I blew up your comment section.
Oh gosh. I gotta say, if you ever get a chance to chat with them more,
Yeah,
they're
I'm
good
sure
peeps.
they're great.
They are.
Dude, again, like, there's not anyone I met. Actually, there are some people who I question why they're in this business. Their motives.
Yeah,
There are
yeah,
definitely people like that. But the vast majority of people that are in here, they're in here like they know. It's like this is like it seems like this is not easy. You do it because you're passionate about it.
Yeah,
And so I'm sure all the favorite
100%.
guys are the same.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
We're in it together. All right, dude.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right, man. Hope you have a good day.
Yes, sir. You too. Enjoy your day off now. Yeah. See ya.
All right.
All right.
All right, Dan. I'll talk to you, man.